Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, a bit of a change this week. I normally review fiction books, but I had some feedback, so why don't you do a few non-fiction books? So, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. So the book I've read this week, or to be absolutely accurate, I've read over the last couple of weeks, because being a non-fiction book, you don't tend to rattle through them that quickly, is this one. It's called How They Broke Britain by author James O'Brien. James O'Brien, well-known radio host, current affairs radio host on a commercial radio station here in the UK. Really good following, well-known journalist as well as being a broadcaster. This is his third book, and it's this is a niche subject. It's about politics in Great Britain, and clearly the title "How They Broke Britain," I guess, basically relies on the reader assuming that Britain is broke. Now, you have to say that given the current situation in this country, that premise is pretty solid. Anybody with a mortgage is paying more for their mortgage. Anybody renting is paying a lot more for their rent. Anybody buying food in a supermarket is paying a lot more for that. We've got raw sewage going into rivers. We've got politicians that break the rules and then decide that the rules are wrong, not them. So things aren't going awfully well. We've got more social division. The economy's tanked. So the supporters of the current regime would say, well, these things are cyclical. Recession follows expansion. It always does, and there have been events outside the current government's influence, both in Eastern Europe and with the pandemic, that nobody could forecast. Mr. O'Brien takes the opposite view. There's a very long introduction. It's a 45-page introduction where he documents the changes in society, where lots of crazy things have happened, and there's so many crazy things that happen, including politicians who years ago would have resigned for breaking rules, now blaming the rules. And there are certain people that have been responsible, if you will, for the decline of Britain, for some of the things that happened. The fact that the politics and the media and the press are now almost as one. You can't even have a budget announcement nowadays without it being reported in the newspapers a couple of days before. So there are some people that have been responsible for that, and there are some people that have been responsible for the change in politics and the way that politicians deal with the general public. So much so that at times people review the political process as almost a sideshow to what's really happening in the world. So that's the premise of the book, and O'Brien lists 10 people that have been responsible for this downturn, both by being deliberate acts, both by ineptitude, and in some cases just wrong place, wrong time, whatever. So I'm not going to review the 10 people involved. There's an introduction of 45 pages, and there are 10 people that are outlined, and O'Brien gives a very good, concise discussion of what they've done and how they did it. The book is 350 pages, but there are 20 pages of notes at the back, which gives references for the 10 individual chapters. So this is going to end up being a very long book for you, and I don't want that to happen. So the 10 people involved, he says, reading from his notes to make sure he doesn't make a cock-up, are 1, Rupert Murdoch; 2, Paul Dacre; 3, Andrew Neil; 4, Matthew Elliott; 5, Nigel Farage; 6, David Cameron; 7, Jeremy Corbyn; 8, Dominic Cummings; 9, Boris Johnson; and 10, last but not least, Liz Truss. So some of those people, clearly, we've got ex-prime ministers, we've got ex-political leaders, we've got press barons, we've got press editors. Probably the one surprise in there was Matthew Elliott, who probably not that well known, was responsible was director of the Vote Leave campaign, the Leave campaign that won the Brexit argument. The rest are well-known politicians, as I said, or media barons. So it's an interesting read, and clearly, some people on the right will say, oh, this is just a whinging lefty. Some on the left will say, well, this is actually a very good breakdown of what's happened to Britain. My view is, I try to be neutral. It's difficult reviewing a book in the political sphere. I'd give it 6 out of 10. It's certainly well researched. The arguments are well put. As I said, there's 20 pages of notes at the back that refer to that. I think, if anything, a book like this makes you think, and that's what books should do. If it's a fiction book, you like to be taken to places where you haven't been before, characters you can believe. A non-fiction book, you want to look at the facts being presented and the comments and the spin and wonder, what's going on here. And if it just makes you think and look at some of the things you see on TV or in the papers and not take it as read and think, what's the position they're taking here? What are they trying to promote? Then it'll have been a worthwhile read. So I'd give it 6 out of 10. That's it for this week's brief book review. Thanks for watching. 10/10 till we do it again.